Hello and welcome to Sex in the News. We are the Siegel Brothers. Today we're going to bring you a couple of stories, beginning with an explanation of the trend of the Olympic anti-sex cardboard beds. We'll then talk about how an Atlanta Falcons linebacker groomed a 13-year-old before sexual abuse. The Minnesota governor restricts conversion therapy for minors. And then we will follow that with a piece about how a federal judge has just blocked the Arkansas ban on transgender treatment for youth. All right, welcome back.
Interesting, good to see you. Interesting news day today.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, people have been going crazy over these ridiculous anti-sex beds. They're not anti-sex beds. They're recyclable cardboard beds.
Right.
That's the whole
that really
extent
is the whole
of this
thing.
News story.
Well,
Is
yes.
that this was a Twitter thing gone viral.
Absolutely.
As usual. Right?
Shows how shows again how social media is going to be the downfall of civilization.
Yeah.
How somebody tweeted something and then it became featured on all the major news outlets. People just heard it and ran with it. They're not anti-sex beds. People are kind of obsessed with this, Olympic
the rumor
mythology.
was that they're beds designed to fit only one athlete, and if two people try and get on the bed together to fool around, the bed will collapse and fall apart.
Right. But that's just not true. Right? First of all, the beds are designed to withstand up to 440 pounds.
Yeah.
And the whole point behind them is that, if you've ever seen, what happens after the Olympics are over, billions of dollars are spent in these cities creating these huge complexes for athletes to live in. And once the Olympics are over, they're just abandoned.
I don't know why they
It's
don't
wasteful.
let poor people live in them or something.
Yeah, you would
right?
think, but they're
build
just
these
they're
Olympic
just deserted.
villages and then they
Right.
just rot.
Right. So the Japanese decided to be a little efficient about it. And these beds are made of a recyclable material. It's not like a box kind of cardboard. They're not flimsy. Right? They can really hold a lot of weight, but they're designed for when the Olympics are over, they will be recycled.
Right.
And from that, they'll make packaging and plastic bottles and all
Even
kinds
still,
of
they
stuff.
could probably give them to homeless people so they don't have to sleep on newspapers.
Well, unless they sleep out in the rain. And they'll probably put a damper on that. Right? But, this whole thing of, it's anti-sex. Just like, they're giving you, we even talked about this a couple of weeks ago. They're giving out condoms, but you can't use them until you get
That's
home.
right. That's very Japanese.
Yeah.
Please take your condoms home.
Right. Although apparently they're giving them out as they're leaving. So it's not like they're going to give it to them and they're going to sit on them in their hotel room.
That's ridiculous.
But again, let's be realistic. You're talking about a collection of young athletes from all over the world. You don't think there's going to be a lot of sex? Right? That's insane. Whether they have cardboard or stainless steel beds, it ain't going to matter. Right? And besides, those beds can hold at least two people quite well.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this the social media driven nonsense that we're constantly having to deal with.
Yes.
Right. Our next story is I think a little disturbing on a couple of levels.
Yeah.
This Atlanta Falcon linebacker, although we should say now former Atlanta Falcons linebacker, right? Barkevius Mingo. Right? Apparently spent a day at Six Flags in Texas with a 13-year-old boy.
His friend, as they
His
say.
friend.
Yeah.
Right? First red flag. Had him buy all kinds of things. Freely, buy whatever you want, especially from the Nike store. Right? And then later that night, right, they had separate rooms in the hotel. But later that night, Barkevius apparently came into the 13-year-old boy's bedroom while he was sleeping. And as the boy said it, basically pulled down his underwear, covered him in lotion, and they're saying now performed a sexual act. Now, again, disturbing on many levels. Right? Number one, if you're a parent and your 13-year-old is friends with a grown adult, that needs to be a red flag.
Yeah. I think they said something about some family relation or something, but doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't
13-year-old
matter.
shouldn't be hanging out. And there was another boy.
Right.
But still, you don't hang out with adult men as friends, spending the day in a amusement park and then a night in a hotel.
Now, you also pointed out something in that article that also was very important.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just noticed that they talked about this shopping spree at the Nike store. I forgot where it said it.
The rainbow shirt?
Right. They were told they could buy anything they wanted from the Nike website, and that they were buying Nike rainbow shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells
Nike rainbow
me,
shirt, blue Nike shoes, and Nike shorts.
right, that chances are the 13-year-old and his friend might have been gay kids looking for a pride shirt. A Nike rainbow T-shirt, I imagine, is a pride item. And that is very often, when young kids come out as gay or lesbian or even trans and feel there's nobody that they can talk to in their family, in their extended family, in their community, in their congregation, very often they turn online and very commonly end up meeting adult men. And a lot of these adult men imagine, right, have ill intent in mind. Or a lot of these adult men say, you know, I'm going to be the kind of role model that I didn't have when I was a young kid trying to come out. And so they take these young gay kids under their wing. But the potential for this kind of abuse is just... and maybe, you know, not excusing Mr. Mingo's behavior in any way, but maybe if he thought, my little cousin and his friend are gay, then they're not going to mind this, or probably like it anyway, or have stories to tell their friends.
You know,
right?
That disturbs me even more as a possibility, because that's a real lack of judgment. You're a grown-ass adult. These are 13-year-old boys. How can you possibly ever even think that would
Well,
be?
because, I mean, it's easy,
No,
it's
I know. I mean,
easy
that's
to
the
think
mindset.
nobody would
Right.
say anything.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But unfortunately, 2 years later, the kid, now 15, did say something.
Right.
And this rapist is facing charges and no longer an Atlanta Falcon.
Right. So, you know, this is a classic case of grooming, right? Spending time, creating that bond. It's kind of, you know, like a con, you know, the con game, you know, for those of you who don't know that, you know, what a con is, it's a confidence game. You get their confidence and then you take advantage of them. And that's what pedophiles do. That's what minor abusers do. They create that confidence. They create that bond. Have that kid look up to them, and then they basically just violate and betray that trust.
Yeah.
Right? So, Barkevius Mingo, formerly of the Atlanta Falcons, we will await to see what the ultimate outcome of that case will be. This story is a little bit more uplifting. Right?
Well, it kind of comes as a pair of stories, I think, that
Yeah,
are
these kind of go hand in
similar,
hand.
right? One in Minnesota, one in Arkansas. We reported recently on the Arkansas governor signing a ban on physicians, endocrinologists in particular, from providing any gender confirmation treatments to minors. And that has been blocked by a federal judge.
Right, which is a really good thing, because part of that also included, that was supposed to go into effect on July 28th. And apparently that would have also included those transgender minors who were already starting their treatment and their gender confirmation treatment. They would have to stop. Right? They would have to stop.
In mid-treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, finally there is that element of, you know, recognition that, you know, we're talking about life-saving treatment. I mean, these people, if a lot of these people have already said that if they had to go back to the gender they were born to, they will kill themselves. Right? And suicidality is not at all uncommon among transgender youth. In fact, it's the highest level of any group you can imagine.
And among gay youth, the leading cause of suicide is non-supportive families telling them that they're not supposed to be gay. Right. You know, the matching news story here on our pair of good news items is that the governor of Minnesota has now restricted conversion therapy, which we've talked about before, at least on minors. And conversion therapy is a long discredited type. I can't even call it a type of therapy. It's a type of it's a never successful form of attempted brainwashing.
Yeah, that's therapeutic.
Where kids, gay or lesbian kids, are basically forced to not be gay anymore.
Right.
Many of them are religious, prompting the cliche of going to a place where you're supposed to pray the gay away. And places where kids are told that God doesn't want them to be gay and their family doesn't want them to be gay, and if they tried really hard they could be heterosexual and everybody will just be so much happier. It's it's noteworthy that it's now several years already since the United Nations Commission on Torture has basically called out the United States and saying why are like 4 or 5 out of 50 states the only ones who have said this is torture and should be illegalized. Now the list grows to include Minnesota.
Right.
Hopefully soon all 50 states, including red ones, will stop torturing kids and forcing them through programs they don't want to be in to be something they are not, and coming out in favor of what's in kids' best interest for a change, and not what people think they're supposed to be.
Exactly. And this is from the state that brought you it's illegal to have sex with a live fish. Right?
Minnesota's pretty blue these days when it needs to be.
Yes. Now, the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, and to what you just said, I think he had a great comment about that. Basically, not only describing this as scientifically discredited and considered to be illegitimate by every mental health organization out there, at least legitimate mental health organization, but he referred to this conversion therapy and this attempt to convert LGBT people to heterosexuality as a Byzantine torturous practice.
It truly is. And if you want proof of how ineffective these tortuous kinds of, quote, treatments are, take a look. They're all over YouTube. Take a look at some of the testimonials of ex-gays and see just how ex they really are, and how often they tend to relapse or admit only down the road that, they never stopped being gay. They just stopped hooking up with men. And
that even goes, I just remembered an incident of, and this guy was the head of one of the top conversion programs, I think in Utah, who seemed like he didn't even realize what he was saying. He's saying, yeah, well, sure, I went through this program, I was converted, and while I'm interviewing guys, to come into the program, sure, I'm fantasizing about having sex with them, but I'm cured. I mean, so again, the nonsense is almost limitless with these people.
And pardon the highbrow scientific references. I don't mean to be all snooty and academic, but check out the South Park episode on Butters being bi-curious.
That's right.
You'll get the best overview picture of what's wrong with these kinds of programs.
Right, especially being bike curious.
Bike curious.
All right, and to conclude, we like to finish up with a piece that we often call poetic justice.
Once in a while, there's no other title than just WTF.
Right.
When we find some wackadoo news story.
That's right. It's something that makes us go WTF.
Right. And we can't not share it with you because we're just so amazed, but it doesn't really rise to the level of poetic justice.
Right.
Right? I guess justice will be served on some level.
Yeah.
But our WTF piece tonight has to do with a 19-year-old man charged with having sex with a horse after breaking into a Norfolk stable in Virginia.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, again, I love the planning that went into this. Apparently, he knew at this equestrian club that there were all kinds of security cameras, and he managed to disable all of them except the one that was in the barn that was filming him.
Right. Forgot about that camera. And yeah, now he's seen on the video luring the horse from the stable with grain, then stood on a stool behind him and had her, I don't know, they didn't say, had sex with the animal while it ate the grain.
Now, this guy is charged with sexual contact with an animal, cruelty to an animal, and breaking and entering during the nighttime with the intent to commit a felony.
Now, in no way are we defending or advocating or ever in a million years saying it's okay to commit bestiality.
No.
There's reasons why it's illegal and considered paraphilic. But, you know, the horse's owner said the horse was uninjured and was enjoying the grain. And you know, one of our heroes, Dan W., famously said to the criticism that animals aren't capable of giving consent, ever try and pet a cat that didn't want to be pet? I think animals have a way of letting humans know when they're not necessarily. But nevertheless, this is disgusting, aberrant behavior.
But on the
illegal.
one hand, there is a positive aspect to that. And I can't help myself.
I know where you're going.
I have to
with
go
this.
here. Again, having sex with a horse, right? Don't recommend it. Not a good idea. Don't do it. But if you are going to have sex with an animal, it probably should be a horse, right? It's a beautiful animal, and at least you have a ride home afterwards. Right? No. And that will do it for another.
Credit to Dave Attell for that
David
horrendous
Tell.
joke.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. So thank you for tuning in and joining us for another issue of Sex in the News. We are the Siegel Brothers. Good night.